This is Maria Corey, and these are my observations on reference in a high school library and how it might be improved. Some background information on the library in the reference section. It is a high school library. It's very popular with both students and staff, which means it's very busy all of the time. It's often crowded. Sometimes there's not even enough chairs for everyone because it is so well used. There is a reference section, but there is no reference desk. Instead, all librarians answer reference questions at the circulation desk. However, very few reference questions are actually asked. And when they are asked, they are normally asked when classes are held in the library. To give you some information about these classes that are held in the library, I'll give you an overview of what typically happens. Before the class even starts, the teacher arranges with the librarian to have this class held in the library. This gives the librarian a little bit of time to prepare. However, some teachers don't give them much information about what they want them to cover. But normally, teachers bring their classes into the library before they have a big research project and they want a quick review of how to do a research project for the class. Things a librarian might cover or typically cover are how to pick a quality topic that lots of sources will be able to be found. They talk about where to look for information, websites, databases that the library has subscriptions to, encyclopedias, both print and electronic, and books. Whenever there's a big research project going on in the school, the librarians pull all of the relevant books in their collection and put them on reserve. The reserve area is right next to the circulation desk, so any students who go to that area to pick out some books, the librarians know they're there and they can give them a little bit extra attention and help with their project. The librarian will also cover during the class how to look for information, so not just where to look, but how to look. This also includes Boolean operators and how to find keywords that you might want to use for your search. And of course, as always, the librarian talks about how to cite your sources and why to cite your sources so you don't get a 0 for plagiarism. Maybe the most important part of this, though, is the time that's left after that presentation for students to start working and ask questions. It's when students are working on their own that they come up with questions that they'd like to ask the librarian, and the librarian's right there for them to ask. So that's really when a lot of their reference questions do get asked. It was very clear to me while observing that these librarians really see themselves as teachers as well, and that educating students how to perform their own searches and find their own answers is really a priority for them. Some things that I overheard in the library were when students were looking for a book on Chinese immigrants, the librarian said, where do you think you could look to see if we have that? Yes, the iPads. Then the librarian stood up and walked over to the iPads where the library's catalog is accessible. A student asked if the librarian how they could cite an encyclopedia. The librarian handed them a pre-made handout on citations and said, I'll be back in 5 minutes to see if you figured it out. If not, we can try it together. And finally, maybe my favorite thing that I overheard was the librarian explaining to a student that an encyclopedia is like Wikipedia, but that's always right. Now, we know that encyclopedias aren't always right, and there are sometimes errors, but it was interesting to hear it explained that way to a student. I think it really helped get the point. There were some problems and, I guess, concerns that I observed in this library. Outside of the classes held in the library, reference questions really are rarely asked. There is a high cost of print materials, and this results in an outdated print collection. And librarians are really constantly concerned that they aren't adequately preparing students to use a university library. They give them so much personal attention and TLC that they're worried that when they do go off to college, they won't be able to find the resources themselves. Some solutions that I thought of and found research to support are as follows: integrating reference into classroom assignments through collaboration between teachers and librarians. This would allow the librarians to know what's going on in the classroom and anticipate student needs. It also allows teachers to know what they can count on the librarians to provide students in the library. Since print resources are so cost prohibitive, embracing non-print and electronic sources is really important for this library. There really is no need to periodically buy print resources when they could consistently buy electronic sources to stay updated. Developing a relationship with a nearby university might be really helpful to allow students to practice using that university library. This could help the librarians be confident that the students are prepared for university and that they don't need the hand-holding that they currently provide. Introducing students to virtual reference services such as chatting or emailing with reference librarians could be really helpful, because most often when students need reference help, it's when they're doing their homework. They're not in the library, they're at home, and they have their phones and they have their computers. And so using those reference services might be very helpful for the kids. And finally, teaching a website evaluation lesson at the beginning of the semester of perhaps their freshman year would allow students to correctly choose websites throughout their high school career. Thank you.